I've said before how much I enjoy the change of seasons, and what we're seeing right now, red leaves up here, and this is one of my favorite bushes. You can see how the leaves are getting purple. Well, those will get like bright red, the whole bush. Just absolutely beautiful. And in keeping, the garden is on its way out. The big birch tree starting to drop leaves. So this is about 60 acres back here. This will get absolutely beautiful. There'll be purples, oranges, yellows, reds. It's really quite spectacular in the fall. Here's the deer favorite, the crabapple tree. And you can see, if you notice, there's no crabapples or leaves, for that matter, on the bottom layer. So some of our favorite YouTube channels are Country View Acres. I think Evan and Rebecca have got about 40 acres of property. Mike and Melissa Morgan, Outdoors with the Morgans, I know they've got about 100 acres. But you know, when it comes to stewardship, being a steward of the land, I don't care how much you own. You know, my dad always used to say, whenever you move somewhere, make sure that when you leave it, you've left it better than when you found it. Hey, if you enjoy our videos, we sure would appreciate a thumbs up right here. And if you have not subscribed, we'd love to have you part of the Tractors in Life family. Thank you for watching. No, I don't have 100 acres, but I don't think it really matters. I think being a steward of the land is taking care of the land properly. You know, even when it comes to the garden, it's actually biblical. In the Bible, it talks about rotating your crops so that you don't pull all the nutrients out that's required, as an example, for tomatoes, and then replant in the same area. You know, we try to do that in addition to tilling and what have you. So it's a responsibility that I believe that we have in being a steward of the property and taking care of it. I think living in harmony with the wildlife that you have, I think, is also important. Now, we've got an awful lot of wildlife here, and we celebrate it. We really do. We love the deer, all of it that we get here, the turkeys and what have you. So that's kind of what this episode is about. So it is that time of the year, fall, where, again, for those of you who have not joined us before, we live in Western New York, just outside of Buffalo. So we've got 4 very distinct seasons. And because I'm OCD, I make a big long list in the spring and make a big long list in the fall, because of all the things that I've got to do around the property and with the equipment and so on and so forth. And when I see those changes that I just showed you, kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety, like I'm falling behind, I'm not going to be ready. Being ready here means, theoretically, being ready by October 1. Now, we're just a few days from that. I'm not going to be totally ready. But a number of years ago, not all that long ago, we had a snowstorm that everybody around here refers to as the October surprise. So what made that snowstorm so unique? First of all, it probably hasn't happened in 100 years. But when snow comes and you've still got the trees that are foliated, what it did was it weighed the branches down, they broke, they took down power lines. Some people were without power for a week. Now that time of year, it warms back up pretty quickly, so the snow doesn't stay on the ground very long. But you know, the damage to the infrastructure has been done. All by way of saying, I've got to get ready. You know, not the least of which is my generator over here that I've got to get serviced so it's ready just in case. Out in the backyard, you've seen our awning. That's going to be coming down because it's not meant to take snow load. So all by way of being ready for the season. And again, this episode is about a little bit about that, but more about being a steward of the land. So it's this time of year the garden comes to an end. I'm going to show you what Tess is up to with that. My cousin Mark and his wife Michelle gave us 2 big brown bags of apples. Going to show you what we're going to do with that. We're going to enjoy that sweetness all winter long. And then also, I spoke a few episodes ago about my testing the garden soil. I'm going to give you those results and also give you my plan on what we're going to do with that. So thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, if you have not subscribed, we sure would love to have you part of the Tractors in Life family. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's get to work. Episode, I showed you 2 different options for testing your soil, and kind of eliminated one of them because it just was very, very difficult to use. The one that I recommended was Grow Smart, and I took the soil sample as per their directions, sent them off in a postage paid envelope. Both manufacturers do say to remove any stones or sticks or anything like that, and I didn't find any in this batch so far. I think it was 5-6 days later, I got this report, which I'm going to put up on the screen for you guys to look at in just a moment. And it gave me, let's see, about a dozen different parameters of how they analyze your soil. The first thing you're going to notice on the upper left is the pH, and it's telling me that the pH is high. So the easiest way for me to fix the pH is going to be peat moss, and that is going to lower it back down into the acceptable level. The next column that you see is organic material. It's telling me that it's high. Higher organic material supports strong, healthy plants. So I'm not that concerned with this. Over on the far right is the what they call the CEC soil capacity to retain nutrients, and it's telling me that that is high. And I've got a lot of clay, so I think that that's the reason that my CEC level is high. High phosphorus. So high phosphorus in garden soil can lead to stunted plant growth, yellowing leaves, and nutrient deficiencies, which interfere with the uptake of iron and zinc. So the easiest way for me to cure that is when we fertilize the garden is to use something that's got low phosphorus. So I think that's going to be relatively simple to do. So then you'll see that the test results come back with high potassium. Now when you have high potassium in a garden, again, and we see something repeating itself here, yellowing or browning leaves, stunted root growth, and even nutrient deficiencies like calcium, magnesium, and iron. So again, instead of high potassium options for balanced fertilizers, they tell us they want to focus our amending with organic materials that provide a high range of nutrient. And then they tell us that the calcium is good, so we don't have to worry about that. They also do say that the magnesium is low. And to address low magnesium, they say to add Epsom salts to the garden. I've heard of this. And again, we're seeing this now for the third time. Symptoms of deficiency include yellowing between the veins of older leaves, which also leads to acidic soil. So again, seeing something that was a result of the high pH. So with this particular one, the magnesium, I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to fix my pH because I think that that may bring the magnesium level into more acceptable levels. Boron, they're also saying is low. Here they tell you with boron to be very careful, that over applying it can be toxic to plants. They also tell me that my iron is high, but they also note that this can be caused by a higher pH. So again, you know, I truly believe that the higher pH is kind of screwing up some of these numbers. Take a look at the magnesium level. It's high, off the charts. Now, to cure that, they say to add gypsum. So I think that's going to be an easy fix. Sulfur is slightly high. I'm going to leave that alone because, again, I think I need to cure the pH first. So in summary, what am I going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add peat moss to the garden. That's going to cure our high pH. And then what I'm probably going to do is retest. I want to see when we bring the pH to the appropriate level, what is that going to do to the rest of these values? So I'm not going to go crazy adding a bunch of stuff. I am going to add the peat moss. Now, depending on the weather, this is about towards the end of September, we've kind of determined we want to let the garden as is to bring some more crops and some more tomatoes especially before we do anything. I think what we're going to do once that happens is we're going to take the fabric off, let it dry, and last year we tilled in all the leftover plant material, and I think that's the reason my organics are high in the garden. this year, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull everything, dispose of it. Again, we're gonna pull the fabric, let it dry out, and then I'm gonna add the peat moss and then till it in. Now this is all depending on the weather, because if we get a very wet fall, it might be difficult to do. You can't till mud. And I know that once we take the fabric off, again, depending on the weather, it may be 3, 4, 5 days before that dries out. So I've got to have those 5 days, I've got to add the peat, then I've got to be able to till it in. So for right now, again, what the soil test has told me, I got a pH problem. I'm going to cure that, then we're going to retest, and then we'll see what happens. She, as you can see, is doing a bunch of canning this morning. So we had family dinner last Sunday, and my cousin Mark and his wife Michelle came, and they live on about 11, 12 acres, and they've got some beautiful apple trees. So he brought us 2 big brown paper bags of apples. Tell everybody what you did with those.
What did I do? I tried to use this sauce machine, but
Coming out is everything but the waste going into, and she's got it, she actually had one of these from her canning kit, and man, you don't get any simpler than that, do you, honey?
Mm-hmm. But it didn't work because it was too...
Skins were too thick?
Yeah,
so
too
it didn't,
thick.
Yeah.
So it didn't work.
So wait a minute, are the skins on in the jar?
The skins are on.
Oh, okay.
So as you're cooking and the apples are getting more softer, you like puree it.
Okay, okay. So, but it's kind of a chunky puree. Well, I can tell you this, before we go any further, it's absolutely delicious. We tried it yesterday. So you processed it in the canning pressure cooker. So as you can see, she's got them finished up now. So we've got 6, 8 jars for the winter. She's also going to be processing the peppers. There's a lot more than this. The green beans and the wax beans, she does not blanch. They go directly into the freezer, and we've had experience with those that they turn out great, so there's no reason to add that step. So, and also today she's processing more tomatoes. Actually, these are processed. These just need to go through the cooker, and then they'll go down in the basement with the rest. Yeah, so Tess is in the middle of processing now. These are tomatoes in here. So those are done. Tess has got those over here, and that's obviously the applesauce. And the work never stops. So she'll wash them, then they'll go into the magic machine and come right out into the jars. You're doing pints this time, right? Yeah. So, yeah, more goodness being canned. You're right, that's not gonna need much pureeing from that point, is it?
No.
So we're moving along, it's fall. This is when you get pretty busy, as everything from the garden starts to come in.
A lot of work.
Yeah, but worth it, right?
Worth it.
And what'd you say what'd you say in our last video? It's hard.
It's hard to be.
It's hard to be a farmer. Hey, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video as much as we have in presenting it to you. This kind of stuff is all in my wheelhouse. I love working around the property. It's truly for me a blessing in my life. Speaking of which, I can't wait for you to see the next episode. We're going to feature our friends, Bob and Karen, who moved from Florida up into the mountains of North Georgia, and what they've done there, and the little gentleman's farm that they're building. I think you guys are going to find it fascinating. It has to do about that, but it also has to do with chasing your passion, which they certainly have done. I'm so proud of them. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time on Tractors in Life.